Hello everyone. Welcome to our first segment of our video demonstration. Just to let you know that we will be breaking these up into smaller blocks, and hopefully we won't run into technical difficulties that we run into with a longer running video. In our first portion of today's exercise, I want to remind you that we are doing two sets of elevations. And so as we start this information, as I mentioned previously, make sure that you have all yourself set up. I don't think I should tell you how to square up your drawings anymore. You should know the importance of doing that. It becomes even more important moving forward. And so please do make sure that you use your drawing tools and equipment properly and make sure that they're set up correctly so that you can complete these assignments as accurately as you can. So having said that, we're going to be using two drawings that we've already done. We're going to be working with the section and the 1/4 inch plan that we have already produced. And so this is, as mentioned, positive information that we need to use to complete the assignment. And simply bear in mind that these are orthographic projections and they are multi-view drawings. It takes multiple views of the same thing to describe the entire thing. So as a result, we're going to be using the section that we generated last week and the ground floor plan that we did the week before. So keep those available. Now for this exercise, I'm going to be using this because it works. It's a little easier to see with the camera and so on. But one of the things I wanted you to observe is that in the setup that I have here, I have already placed my floor plan with this orientation. Now that orientation is that the solarium's on the left side and the porch is, obviously here. Windows, the double windows are on the right. So make sure that you keep the correct orientation or you'll be drawing the wrong side and you don't want to do that. So the other thing I want you to know is that based upon this information, we can start pretty readily with the idea, the concepts necessary for building an exterior elevation. And that is, we need the floor plan information to give us boundaries, left and right generally, and we need the section information to give us those heights. And with that, we can create kind of a building boundary line that defines the exterior profile of the building. And so that's one of the first things we do. Then after that, we refer to each sheet very specifically for the features that have to do with its placement left and right off the plan, and the sections and the reference information here for the relative heights. And so that information comes from previously established information. So we're really just tooling information that we already have, and therefore we should be able to borrow that information and project it forward with these new drawings. So having said that, we want to use the section first. And so as we do that, please take a minute and I do as I've done here, tape down the ground floor plan and then tape on top of it the section, making certain that the exterior lines line up with the exterior lines of the plan below. Okay, this should all be, again, a review or a continuation from last week, so nothing new here. So once you have those lined up, and I'm just going to check for square, I'm looking pretty good there. I'm going to say we're good, and I'm going to tape us down. Now, what that has provided us with is if you look close, and you're going to have trouble seeing it there, but on your vellum it should be very readily apparent what is going on underneath because of the transparency of the media, the vellum drawing itself. So as a result, do think in terms of layers and referring back and forth to things. It's kind of helpful, but it takes a little practice. So good luck with that as we go about setting up the drawing. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to set up the vellum sheet here so that it so that my section is principally in the middle. Now remember, it's a rough out and you can finish it and make it look great later, but I don't want it drifting off the sheet too far. So I'm going to take time to make sure that it's dressed down and taped in the right location and that it's lined up properly so that the drawing will be easier to complete. Okay, so please take a minute and get yourself situated there, and I'm going to go ahead and start with some instructions here. The very first thing that we need to do is to establish those boundaries, like I said. And the great thing about the section you cut is that it automatically has given you a profile of one of the two elevations. So we're going to start there. Might as well start with the easy stuff and then see where it takes us from there. So as we do that, the idea is that we have the section taped down. We're just going to trace the outline of it, okay? We don't want any of the inside lines. We can't see that. This is an exterior elevation, so really nothing inside the building will be visible, only exterior elements. So the easiest way to establish a boundary is simply just trace the profile of what you've got so far. So I'm going to do that quickly, and so that you can see what we have to do here. And I'm going to do it rather light because you can do this. It's just not that technical. Okay, so and I'm going to do this in such a way that you could see what it is we're aiming for here. Okay. And we have, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the profile of the solarium just for the time being. And then additionally, I'm going to go ahead and put in the ground line. Now, if you see my line's a little bit off here, it's because the copy underneath stretched. That happens when you run them through a photocopier machine. They're not a perfect copy. They tweak a little bit, but I know what I need to have here. And so you're working off original work. You shouldn't have that same problem. So as a result, we should be able to see pretty readily what's required for the profile of this building. And I think we're there. Okay, I didn't put in the chimney yet. We'll do that a little bit later. But you can see it's the basic house form. Instead of redrawing it and recalculating, going through all that stuff we did last week, we're relying on this week or last week's work to provide us with this week's drawing. Now, the next drawing will be relying on this drawing to take us to the next drawing. But let's start with the idea that within this envelope that we've created, we have the basic form. And we could come back to this at any time. At this stage of the game, I'm much more interested in what's going on with the plan below. Now, for that reason, I'm going to remove my my section because it was there to give me a profile. That was really what I was trying to achieve with this. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to be relying much more heavily upon the floor plan and the reference sheet. So I'm going to pull that off and remove that. Oh, there's my floor plan. Okay, so hopefully you can see that much better. And because the methodology we're going to talk about here is going to be repeatable in future lessons, not just this one, but down the road. So first thing I want you to understand is that we have the baseline. That's the outside. That's not the floor. If you remember, the floor is 3 feet above the ground line. So we're going to go ahead and mark that 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put in the finished floor line. That's important. The reason is all of our features will be measured from our information sheet, AFF, above finished floor. That means we're going to measure above the finished floor to find that height. So here's our building profile. Here's the lineup of the walls to it. So as you can see, we're on the outside of the wall, we're on the outside of the wall, and we're on the outside of the roof. The only thing we came down, put in the ground line, but this line right here is an interior measurement line, and it's going to help us stay consistent. I'm going to make a note. I'm going to write the word or the letters FF on there so I don't forget. So I don't start drawing on the wrong, using the wrong measurement. Okay, so this part of the process is where we're going to use the information that's on the floor plan now, and we're going to transcribe it onto the elevation. It is relatively simple. What we're going to do is we're going to look for the major vertical edges or boundaries of those features that are required. So what do I mean by that? Let me point it out. Okay, so if we look at the plan down below, we say there's a window here, a door here, and a window here. Just for those 4 features on the front of the house. They're pretty important, but we're going to put them on the drawing first. So looking at the building boundaries or the building shell or perimeter, we've got a window, door, window. So we're going to find the edges of those. So if you look closely, we have an edge here, right at this edge. We're going to mark it. We're just going to put a little tick mark there. We're going to do the same thing on the other edge of that window opening. Then so on with each one. We're going to come to the door. We're going to do the door. Now remember, it's the opening, not the trim piece. It's the clear opening that we're going for right now. So we go to the door opening. Then we come over to the last window and mark it there and there. Now, theoretically, if I had adjusted my plan a little bit, I could be putting them right on the finished floor line. That's a good thing to do. Not necessary, but it's nice. It's a nice way to keep track of things. So as we do that, now what we're going to do is we're going to use those edges. We've just identified where they are on that elevation. So we're going to draw a vertical line at each one of those from the right going to the left. And we're just going to take it from the finished floor up to, well, we know that all the doors from our section here, we know all the doors are at 6 foot 8 inches high. That's a common head height. For most residential design, you try to align the head heights of the doors with the windows. It keeps it from looking a little too chaotic. So as a result, I'm going to mark on top of, I'm going to measure up from the finished floor line, 6 foot 8, and we're going to make a mark in a horizontal line very lightly, just so that we can know where our boundaries for that those windows are going to go. So I've marked 8 inches, and I'm going up to 6, and making a mark. I'm just going to put a light horizontal line across the drawing. That's my stop point. Now here we go. So we know the beginning, we know the end. We're just going to draw those lines from the floor plan. We're going to start at the finished floor lightly. We don't need to blast these lines in yet. I'm going to do each edge, and we're going to continue it from the finished floor all the way up to the head height. I'm going to put these in a little bit heavier in just a moment, but for right now, this should be quite adequate. That's good. We'll put this one in. And the door, and the last window, and the final edge on the last window. Okay, overshot one of them. We don't need the lines so much now. That's why we put it in kind of light. Okay, so now what if we want to, we can look at our comparisons, and we can say, just for comparison, those windows, they don't go to the floor. They don't go down all the way. They're up some dimension here. So as we look back at our listing here, it says, oh, there we go. So the window sill right here, the window sill is 3 foot 0 inches above finished floor. So we're going to measure up from the finished floor 3 feet 0 inches. And as I mark that, I'm going to put a line lightly across. You could probably skip over the door if you wanted to. But this is going to give me the boundaries of each of these 3 window sets. Now I can erase the lines down below it. And so now we're starting to see that the box openings that are required for this elevation represent window, window, door, window. So not so much different than what we got here. Window, window, door, window. So I'm going to say this, I'm going to just repeat this really quick here just in case someone didn't quite catch the concept. We used the floor plan to find the placement. So we just marked it on the elevation because our elevation is lined up outside to outside. You already drew the perimeter. It's good to go. That means we can actually mark on this drawing every edge. So we looked for the edge of the window here. We looked for the edge of the window here, went to the next one, went to the next one here, we went to the edge of the door, other side of the door, edge of window, and we just marked them. Then we projected them up from the finished floor line, from this FF line that we have here, up to a height. What was the height? Well, back to our reference plan here, or the previous section, whichever one you want to use, they should both be correct. It says door and window head heights are 6 foot 8 inches above finished floor. So that's what I marked each of those. Drew a line across all of them, they all line up. So the premise of this, I want you to see a repeat pattern in the procedure. We're going to be doing this again and again throughout this exercise and in future exercises. So it's important to use the plan to find placement and the other information to provide heights. So I'm going to close down this portion of the video demonstration. When we come back, we're going to be working on the porch and the chimney and some of the trim work that's necessary. And so that will make up our time in this next section. So I will see you in a moment or two. And until then, so long. Thank you.